Evelyn is the name I go by. Last November, I celebrated my 67th birthday. Since Harold's passing, I find myself living alone now. 9 years have passed and I've become accustomed to the silence, yet on certain days, it lingers in the curtains like an unwelcome dust I cannot dislodge. My days are woven with simple rituals. Nourishing the birds, nurturing my herb garden, and crafting notes that remain unsent. During the previous summer, my grandson Jonah inquired whether he and his friend might come for a weekend visit. I agreed without a moment's hesitation. Without fail, I find myself agreeing to Jonah's requests. At the age of 21, he finds himself navigating the world of college. He stands tall, a reflection of his father, yet possesses a kindness that echoes his mother's warmth. There exists a gentle quality within him that remained unyielding, untouched by the tumult of adolescent defiance. And his companion Dean was unfamiliar to me. At the age of 22, Dean found himself at a crossroads. Perhaps 23. I found myself in a state of uncertainty. He possessed an ancient wisdom for one so youthful, the manner in which he observed the world, as if he perceived depths beyond what was expected. His dark hair, perpetually tousled, framed a gaze that could steal the breath from your lungs in an instant. They made their entrance on Friday afternoon. I prepared a refreshing batch of iced tea. We lingered on the porch, engaging in conversations that danced between the trivial and the profound. Jonah set his phone to charge within the confines of his home, and then succumbed to the allure of a restful nap. Dean chose to remain. It was the inaugural moment I became aware of it, the manner in which he gazed at me as I spoke. Impolite, not disregarding, yet entirely engaged. It had been ages since anyone had regarded me in such a way. Our conversation stretched on for more than an hour, on the subjects of literature and melody, reflecting on how the world resonates with a heightened intensity compared to days gone by. He expressed a fondness for tranquil settings. I shared with him how this house once thrummed with life, laughter, jazz melodies, spirited debates over dinner, and now the walls had absorbed the stillness. He remarked, "That's the reason I appreciate it. It seems that in this place nothing artificial endures." On that evening I prepared the meal. Chicken marsala, vibrant basil plucked straight from the garden. With swift bites, Jonah finished his meal and vanished upstairs, laptop in tow. Dean lingered to assist me with the dishes. I informed him that it was not necessary. He remarked, "I understand. Yet I desire to." In quietude we stood shoulder to shoulder, the dishes glistening under the warm water as we scrubbed away the remnants of our meal. Once my arm grazed against his. Only a single time. I reassured myself that it held no significance. Yet, in the stillness of that night, as I reclined in bed shrouded in darkness, the sensation lingered, palpable and undeniable. The following morning, Jonah departed at dawn, claiming he needed to rendezvous with friends in town. Dean was meant to depart alongside him. Yet he remained. He mentioned that Jonah had overlooked something, and that he would remain there until Jonah returned. He lingered throughout the entire day. As the sun sank below the horizon, casting shadows among the trees and the first fireflies flickered to life in the yard, I turned to ask, "Would you like to stay the night?" He gazed at me for what felt like an eternity. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes. If that suits you well." It was far from merely acceptable. For the first time in years I sensed a stirring within me. Dean found solace in the guest room, surrendering to the embrace of sleep. I found myself wide awake in my own thoughts. Each sound resonated with a newfound intensity. The creak of the floorboards, the gentle hum of the aging refrigerator, the soft whisper of the wind brushing against the windowpane. I was lost in the moment, oblivious to the potential consequences that loomed ahead. Not at this moment. As I reflected on the moment, I couldn't help but recall the intensity of his gaze when I uttered my good night. As if he were not bidding good night at all. As dawn broke, I prepared a batch of pancakes and delicately sliced the peaches harvested from the tree in the yard. He entered the kitchen without shoes, his hair still a bit wet, clad in the same crumpled t-shirt he had worn the previous day. I urged myself to concentrate on the meal, the instructions, the butter sizzling in the skillet. We dined al fresco. He inquired about my life, the sort of questions that had gone unasked for years. "What aspirations did you hold when you were at my age?" A singer, I admitted, a touch of embarrassment creeping into my voice. At the age of 20, I would often slip away to the jazz clubs. Have you ever performed a song before an audience? Once, in a dimly lit bar nestled in the heart of Chicago. My hands trembled uncontrollably, making it nearly impossible to grip the microphone. For just 2 fleeting minutes, a sense of belonging enveloped me, as if I had finally found my place in the world. He offered a smile. How I longed to witness that moment. I gazed at him, and for an instant I found myself yearning for that as well. Later that afternoon, we ventured out for a walk along the trail that winds behind the house, leading to a small clearing where an old bench, crafted by Harold and me years ago, awaited us. Dean took a seat next to me, near. So near that the scent of cedar mingled with a hint of rain lingered in the air. He shared with me the story of his own family, how he truly sensed that he lacked one. His parents separated at a young age. His mother resided in Oregon. His father imbibed excessively. He confessed to a lingering envy for Jonah's family. The shared dinners, the echoes of laughter, the unwavering presence of loved ones. You are included in that as well, I remarked. He pivoted in my direction. It lacks the same essence. Not alongside Jonah. Not quite. Yet in your presence. I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. His gaze fell, a flush of embarrassment creeping across his features. I ought not to have uttered those words. No, I replied. There's no need for apologies. After that moment, silence enveloped us. We simply took our seats. Upon our return, I prepared a pot of tea. He inquired whether we might indulge in a viewing, a film, or perhaps anything that caught our fancy. I settled in with a classic black and white film that once captured my heart. We perched on the couch side by side, yet our bodies remained apart. Until we finally did. It began with the gentle caress of his hand against mine, then remaining in that place. I remained steadfast, unwilling to retreat. As the credits began to roll, he turned his gaze toward me. Not with hunger, not even with longing. Embracing optimism. May I remain here? He inquired. You've arrived, I murmured. He leaned in gradually, with a carefulness that suggested he was offering me every opportunity to decline. Yet I refrained. Our lips connected, tender, inviting, hesitant. In that moment, a familiar whisper echoed within me, uttering words I hadn't contemplated in ages. Allow yourself to embrace it. Only a single time. It was well past midnight when I first heard him lingering outside my bedroom door. A gentle rap. There is no immediate need for action. Refraining from assumptions. Simply present. I propped myself up in bed, my heart racing in that timeless manner that only occurs when something irrevocable looms on the horizon. The door creaked open, revealing what lay beyond. He lingered in sweatpants and a t-shirt, barefoot, his hair a chaotic mess as if sleep had eluded him entirely. He remained silent. There was no obligation on his part. I moved to the side. He stepped into the room with a deliberate slowness, as though it were hallowed ground. We took our time. Not a single moment. He perched on the brink of the bed, lost in thought. I found myself standing beside him. He gazed at me as if seeking approval from the cosmos itself. I remained silent. My fingers grazed his cheek. His hand grazed my waist, hesitant initially but soon firm. When our lips reunited, the experience was transformed. It transcended mere curiosity or rebellion. It revolved around acknowledgment. The pace was languid, excruciatingly slow. It was as if neither of us wished for the moment to slip away. If we were to extend it sufficiently, perhaps it could transform into something enduring. His hands bore the freshness of youth. Mine were not. Yet they discovered a cadence. A tenderness emerged that rendered time inconsequential. We refrained from uttering one another's names. We did not murmur our promises. We allowed the silence to convey what words would have tarnished. In the stillness of the night we remained entwined, lost in the shadows for what felt like an eternity. I glided my fingers through his hair. He nestled his face against my shoulder as if it were his rightful place. Are you all right? He finally murmured. Indeed, I replied. Are you? He inclined his head in acknowledgment. I hope this choice is not a misstep. It is not. I truly meant it. God help me, I truly meant it. The moonlight glided over the polished hardwood floor. I observed the contours of his back, undulating rhythmically next to me, and contemplated. This will alter the course of everything. Yet, in that gentle, perilous quietude, wisdom felt like a burden I was unwilling to bear. I simply wished to exist. The dawn that followed seemed almost surreal. Sunlight streamed through the curtains as it always did, caressing the bed, the floor, and the weathered chair in the corner. Yet it seemed as though it was reaching into an uncharted realm, a presence that had not graced the world a mere 24 hours prior. Dean lay beside me, lost in slumber, his body gently turned toward the void I had created in the bed. I observed him for a brief moment, absorbing the tranquility that graced his features. Youthful, free from the weight of worries. Unbeknownst to them, the waves were poised to ripple outward. I dressed in silence and made my way to the kitchen, my body aching in ways I hadn't experienced in years, a pain that resonated not only physically but also deep within my emotions, as though a fragment of my being had been unraveled and reconstructed into the essence of truth. I brewed a cup of coffee. I gazed at the percolator as if it held the keys to my questions. At approximately 9 he appeared, eyes heavy with sleep, shirt absent, hair in a delightful disarray. He smiled at me as if we existed in a moment suspended in time, as if nothing needed to be defined. We sat in quietude, sipping our coffee, yet within me a tempest was brewing. What would Jonah's gaze reveal if he ever discovered the truth about me? Would he perceive treachery, deceit, insanity? And what if, in the depths of his heart, Dean found himself filled with regret? I shattered the stillness. Dean, about last night. He raised a hand with a soft grace. There's no need for an apology. Kindly. Only if you truly mean it. I do not, I replied. Yet fear grips me. I am as well. Yet I harbor no regrets. He approached, placed his coffee aside, and enveloped me in his embrace. Simply embraced me. For a fleeting instant, I allowed myself to entertain the notion that it might truly be that straightforward. On that afternoon he carefully packed his bag. Our farewell lacked the flourish of a grand cinematic moment. He made no promises and I made no inquiries. He embraced me tightly and for what felt like an eternity at the threshold. You made me feel acknowledged, he murmured. You completed me. You brought me back to the realization of my own existence, I said. And just like that he vanished. Left behind, I found myself surrounded by the lingering echo of footsteps, the faint aroma of his shampoo clinging to my sheets, and a silence that weighed more than any I had previously experienced. For weeks, silence enveloped me, his absence echoing in the void. I was taken by surprise. I endeavored to persevere, shopping for groceries, gathering for book discussions, and enjoying Sunday dinners with Jonah. Everything. Yet I had transformed. The woman they encountered at those dinners, the one beaming at checkout counters, she had brushed against something taboo, something gentle. Yet she found herself unable to return. On a certain evening roughly 3 weeks later, I discovered an envelope nestled within the mailbox. Unnamed. Merely my address, penned in a well-known script. Within lies a note. Uncertainty lingers over the future of this situation. Yet, the memories of our time together will forever linger in my mind. If you wish to encounter me once more, I shall be in the very spot where you first invited me to remain. My hands quivered as I absorbed the words. And for the first time since that night tears streamed down my face. For whatever unfolded thereafter, I was certain of one thing. Our actions transcended the notion of sin, or perhaps a sense of disgrace, or controversy. It revolved around two souls, isolated, acknowledged, daring for a fleeting evening. I lingered outside the cottage for almost 10 minutes before finally raising my hand to knock. The light on the porch glowed softly. The familiar chipped blue chair remained propped against the wall. A planter brimming with wild mint welcomed me, reminiscent of a memory I had yet to deserve. The air carried the essence of late summer, a blend of earth, dusk, and an unexpected softness that tugged at a forgotten longing within me. As the door creaked open, Dean stood there, his feet bare against the cool floor. His hair had grown longer. He appeared aged, not merely by the passage of time, but by the weight of experiences endured. His eyes grew wide, yet he remained silent for the moment. I have merely taken a step back. I stepped inside. The interior was unadorned. A modest table cluttered with haphazardly piled books, a guitar resting by the window, and a mug of tea now cooling that he must have overlooked. It exuded a sense of familiarity. It exuded a sense of safety. He gently grasped the note from my hand, the very same he had penned. "I had a feeling perhaps you wouldn't show up," he remarked. I nearly refrained, I confessed. Yet, it wasn't due to a lack of desire. We took our seats. The silence held a certain ease. It felt like an old friend. It enveloped us in a hushed assurance. I recounted the weeks that ensued, the weight of remorse, the exquisite allure, the pain, how I'd find myself smiling at the emptiness around me, how my pulse would race at the mere glimpse of anything that brought him to mind, the scent of mint, the sound of music, the sensation of bare feet on hardwood floors. He absorbed every word, his attention unwavering. Then he remarked, "I wasn't certain if I ought to make contact. Yet I felt compelled to make an attempt. I'm pleased you took that step." He extended his hand toward mine. The warmth enveloped everything, a steady presence that exuded certainty. "I refuse to feign simplicity in this matter," I declared. "Perhaps chaotic, or delicate. I understand. However, that does not render it incorrect." And in some inexplicable way, I found myself believing him. That evening, I chose not to remain. Our conversation stretched on for hours. We immersed ourselves in the sounds of an old record. He escorted me to my car and pressed his lips to mine softly, as if seeking my consent all over again. Upon arriving home, I found myself seated in my driveway, the engine silent, as I observed the moon gracefully slip behind the clouds. A change had occurred once more. Nowhere to be found. Within me, fear no longer held its grip on me. Free from judgment. Not from yesteryear. Not even of what lies ahead. For I had embraced this, not as an error but as a significant instant. At times, love is simply the bravery to immerse oneself completely in a fleeting moment, fully aware that it cannot endure. Dean and I never evolved into a narrative with distinct chapters. We never crafted a life in unison. Yet we continued to pen our letters. Our paths crossed 2 more times. Each moment was marked by a serene honesty, a gentle softness that enveloped the air. And when it concluded, as expected, devoid of theatrics, we felt no sorrow. What we shared was not merely a detour. It stood as a portal. And I, a woman who believed she had seen all that life had to offer, stepped through it. Perhaps that is the most outrageous revelation of all. I certainly didn't allow him to spend the night. Yet, I allowed myself to experience those emotions.